One thing I do take into consideration is how this guy is playing post flop. So if he like some people are playing like more checking and using smaller size, but I think this guy was using quite like a lot of 2/3. And once he starts using bigger bet sizes all around the boards, that will fuck up my defend against c-bet, especially if he's aggressive.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I like if I think he's really aggressive and really like barrel happy guy, I'm just going to probably with 50, maybe even like for 45 because of that reason.
Mm-hmm. I think it's reasonable.
And over here with like offsuit king X and small ace-X, like against these guys, like this type of player, I tend to 3-bet close like a lot here with this type of holding.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So, what do you think about flop strategy? Actually, I just look 2 hands and I ran 2 sims. This is one of them. Just want to make sure
Okay.
I'm playing right. So, what do you think about this? In general, like.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, this is a really interesting situation. So I don't have, honestly, like I don't have like great thoughts about what to do. I know that ordinarily paired boards would make higher frequency c bets. I also know that his range should probably be very condensed and like more uncapped. So like a solver, particularly if you run this with like equilibrium ranges, it's gonna have him flatting like jacks and queens a lot probably.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how reasonable that is, but like obviously when you lock that in, there's gonna be more checking than if those hands were gone. So I wouldn't. To be honest, like I said, I don't really know. I would probably bet more than a solver would recommend because I do think you can probably lock him to not having queens, which is what a solver I think would assume at like almost a pure weight. But like I don't know if it moves that far
Mm-hmm.
when we pull those out. So, and I think like I do think checking a lot is probably a good idea, but I don't mind if you see bet small.
Okay.
I'm between see bet small and check though.
Yeah, I don't
I
think you
wouldn't
get
be
to size
betting.
size up. Or
Yeah,
well, I
sorry,
saw
but
that solution. There is no sizing up in this type of
yeah.
spot.
So I would bet smaller check. Yeah.
Yeah. So my first thing, just looking at stacks, typically in this type of situation, is like I don't wanna play any big pots against this guy. Like in general, I'm gonna avoid these spots. Obviously, if they come up and I need, like he puts me in those spots, I'm gonna need to play. But I'm not really looking to get it all in or build a big bot in general against this stacked size.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm like obviously like I'm just thinking saying what I thought in game. Like even though like Sim does agree with me, my thoughts were I'm gonna check my close to my range here because
Mm-hmm.
I think his range is supposed to be really strong. Like this is like how I constructed his range over here. I'm not sure if it's going to be correct. Will he flat this? I don't think he's supposed to flat a lot of these hands in this range. But like this is what I'm like expecting people do, kinda like maybe do.
So this is manually construct. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Sure.
yeah. So this is like kinda range I'd assume he might have. It could like I do think it should be neither, but like that's how I expect I see
Sure.
population play for the most part, I'd say.
That's reasonable. Sure. I don't disagree with that.
And my opening range is about 25, 27%. I think I can push it more over here, even though like I'm like one of the big stacks left to act. I don't just think I can like push more than 27 here. So
Mm, sure. I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have thought you could open even 27.
yeah, I'm
Maybe you
not.
can. I would have put it at like 24 or so.
Yeah, that makes
Not that,
probably more.
not that it's like a huge difference, but like there's
Yeah, that
like
makes.
sub 20 in the big blind. Like I don't know. Doesn't seem like there's like the stacks you need leverage against are the ones aren't really low ones that you're opening into. So
Mhm.
I would have been a little bit tighter, but like not crazy tighter. So like whatever.
So we checked range, as I said already, and he
Mhm.
is supposed to be betting small. I guess we can like go through the hand first. So
Sure.
he bets small. I don't think I can fold with a backdoor flush draw here ever. Would you consider raising here?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I like that was one thing I know I didn't consider in game.
Yeah, I would consider raising a lot. I wouldn't like do it all the time, but I would consider raising lots. Yeah.
Yeah, I do believe the.
I'm not really like a huge fan of having the queen of clubs when I check raise. So I would have like ace of hearts, queen of diamonds more often when I check raise. or like ace of hearts, queen of spades when I check raise more often. That would be how I do it more of the time, and it wouldn't matter to me that I have the club, so I'd rather not have it. But like I would still think about it. I would probably do it a lot less just because like as not being a solver, as being a human, like I'm more comfortable like just kind of using the combos that I know are better at like more robust weights than solvers would use them. So I'm not really worried about being counter exploited in the same way. So yeah, so I mean like yeah, I would use ace of hearts, queen of diamonds tons, but I would use this one sometimes. Or like maybe not at all because the queen of clubs blows.
Okay. So I called, check check. What's your river sizing over here? Or do you like mixing checks as well?
Did you assume you can have queen nine suited?
Yes. Queen 9 suited is like really small weight.
Like what kind of weight?
25%.
Okay, so it's basically gone for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Just hit cancel. Yeah, you could probably still check raise. I guess he's got nines too, doesn't he? He's got nines at like a really robust weight. So you checked. He bet the flop. You called. Check check turn. Right.
Yeah.
So he's got a full weight of nines.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how much that matters. It probably matters enough, considering. Yeah, probably matters quite a bit, like with risk premiums and stuff. Yeah, I guess like we should probably not check raise. That means I'd probably want to bet.
And sizing, what would you choose?
Probably like 9.
Okay. So I went with 6. I do think like this probably on a smaller side in general. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do the sim. So check. So on the flop there is actually no like as you said, ace of diamond, queen of hearts. Like, but not really much check raising with ace
Yeah,
of
but
hearts.
but it hates the suit with like the club.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, you can actually like king queen with a queen of clubs doesn't hate it.
No, it doesn't.
Would you find all these calls with like nines, eights plus? I think I feel like check raising too much this.
Yeah, I don't think I would check raise those. Like those. So what's going on is so like for these, they would make more sense to check raise if he had more modest weights on queens, right? So like this happens all the time.
Yeah.
Right. Like as you give him the overpairs, it's efficient to check raise with pocket eights. Like from the way that we feel about his range, which is like we don't want to deal with overcards on the turn.
Yeah.
But like as we throw in more overpairs to villain's range, it gets like they're not strong enough. And like with an equity risk premium layered in, I would definitely have just called with eights and nines. I probably would have check raised tens or jacks more, to be honest. I almost certainly would have check raised jacks more, but I wouldn't have check raised with eights or nines at all. So
okay, yeah, I think I probably overdo all of it a little bit. Okay,
sure.
Let's go. What's the board? Queen and 9. So check to turn.
Will you check? Oh yeah, check turn. Okay, sure.
So ace queen mostly likes to bot over here. So it's ace queen, but a little bit checking.
That's not that surprising. I mean, like that's I said I would bet 9, so I mean I'm kind of in the same camp as like larger bet size, don't check too much, kind of reasoning. Aces make sense to check because it unblocks bluffs.
Yep.
So like if he's got like a king jack or a king 10 type float, he's gonna bluff with it on the river, but he won't bluff with ace high floats on the river. So I think that makes more sense to fill out a checking category than like kings would. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Seems like most of that seems rational. Seems like it doesn't seem like it's that hard.
I'm just gonna yeah, there is no check raising with ace queen. Even ace is just check calling on the river for the most part.
Yeah, they're capable of check raising, so it's close, but like ace queen's not.
Okay, let's move on.
Pretty sick to see ace 9 just bluff shove all the time because like that's like like what I care about is right, and like when I'm playing is I want to make sure that I understand the situation properly, right? So like so like when I go through the sims, I want to understand the situation properly, and the threat of a 9 is very reasonable, which was like my whole thesis, right? Yeah. My whole thesis was like, how much queen 9 does he have? Like he's got pocket 9s, okay. So like how does it bluff? Like it check slams it with like ace 9, king 9, 9-8, right? So like my concern around the 9x component, gets validated by the sim, which is what's really important to me, is making sure that, like, okay, am I understanding things properly? Like, am I
Mm-hmm.
thinking about this right, or am I thinking about it, like, in some really flawed way? And so yeah, so this is nice to see.
Is it bluffing over here as well? No. Good. So, some of these sims like some solutions that look like it goes really weird, where you like on the a side flop, you can check raise like your smaller like B blind versus like button or something. You check raise your ace five off, for example, like just a weak ace, and then you go into clicking battle, and you actually ending up bluffing with ace six. Like there are some
Mhm.
really weird lines that solver takes. That's like
Sure,
you're not really used to it in general.
sure.
What's your thoughts over here?
That's an awkward situation to find myself in. That's my thoughts. Um, I always find
So,
these lines like
uh,
somewhat disrespectful.
everybody is watching. He's actually supposed to have only limping range. He's not supposed to have any raising range over here with these stacks. So,
Yeah,
like in sim, he's supposed to be checking. So that's why I'm asking, because if it's
yeah,
out of solution, like now you need to think and figure it out.
yeah. So, I mean, like, so my thoughts are like a few, right? So, like, first of all, this hand fills out the 3-bet fold range, uh, like, very cleanly. But when he does this, he's already kind of telling you that he's punty and that he doesn't understand what's going on. I don't give a fuck what his name is. So, like, he's already telling you he doesn't know what he's doing in this situation, right? So,
Hmm.
he's obviously a very talented player, but that doesn't mean he knows everything. Nobody knows everything, and this is something he doesn't know. He doesn't know how the spot works.
Yeah, you will see
So,
this a lot where he's not playing what your solution would suggest, and is taking these lines. Like it, like also another thing, like this doesn't mean it's not still profitable line he's
sure.
taking. It's
Yeah,
just like suboptimal.
sure. Yeah. So, your hand now, like when we evaluate your hand is like supposed to be purely 3-bet probably, or like close to it, because like the way that we want to 3-bet is like against this type of a strategy is going to be, kind of like up and down, like polarized, blocker oriented. We want hands that unblock the folds. So a hand like King Deuce is probably going to be overweight relative to a hand like King 8 or King 9, because hopefully he's smart enough to know that like your in position strategies at a minimum dominated by calling. And since you're going to call so much and he's out of position post flop and the stacks at the table, he really can't bluff in a polarized way. If he's bluffing in a polarized way, I mean, we can get more insulting and talk in terms of the language we use to describe the way he's playing. So, like, he needs to be bluffing in like at least a relatively linear way, where like he considers the fact that you're going to high frequency flat, and so he bluffs with like Queen 9 offsuit or Queen 8 offsuit or 10 8 offsuit or 10 9 offsuit. Again, if he's bluffing with like 7 4 offsuit or 7 3 offsuit because he's trying to deploy a polarized strategy, he really has no clue what's going on.
Hmm.
So, it's important to me to unblock those bluffs, because I'm going to give him credit for assuming that he knows that that's at least the beginning stages of how this would work. So I'm gonna fold those one, or like call with like the King 8 versions, or call with like the Queen 8 versions, because of the way that I would expect him to be bluffing pre-flop. And as a result, I would overweight these for the 3-bet category. I do think you're supposed to 3-bet pure here. Um, I'd probably do it because I would just be like, oh my god, this sucks. Like, he's
Hmm.
probably gonna jam on me because he's stupid, and I mean, like, and then I would do it anyway because I'm supposed to. And
Yeah.
like he probably just like slams it in with like sevens, and he's like, "I'm so good," and I'm just like, "All right, dude,
Yeah,
whatever."
that's exactly what I was kind of thinking as well. That like this type of like
Yeah,
small king X, like even if you have king seven over here, it kind of feels like let's just three bet him. Wouldn't even shock me if we could like just rip it in, especially if
yeah,
it's
but I
like
think I think
really
that that's I think that
unbalanced.
that's I think that the way that he's going to bluff though, that won't work as well as you hope it works. Like, I really think that he's bluffing with, like, if he's playing well, I think he's bluffing with like Jack 7 and like Queen 8 and
Yeah,
like 10 7 and 10 8, and so like I really don't think you want to use as much King 7 as you want to use like King 5.
yeah, that is true. I guess he's gonna go like also use a calling range here, which is like he's not supposed to have a calling range here for the most part. I don't believe.
Mhm.
So
You made it
yeah,
really big though, so you made it really hard for him to have a calling strategy. I wouldn't have gone this big personally. Um, I would have made it like 8.5.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, this is definitely like pushing it to the max you can like do it. So I like more like going smaller.
Yeah, I mean, like calling's really so. Like there are, you want to I like almost think about it like this. In this situation, for someone who knows what's going on, it's like calling. The impacts of three betting have made calling so untenable. So when we get into three bet situations in ICM adjusted situations, the counter strategy is usually dominated by four betting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be like doubly true when your opponent has like a positional advantage. And so like you should encounter a lot of four bet strategy pre-flop here. And if you expect that, then you should probably go smaller. So like
Yeah, that
until you introduce a calling strategy or until calling starts to get more attractive. Um, because like the whole reason to three bet big is to like make calling. If your opponent's gonna play four bet or fold, you would make it as small as possible. Like if I knew he was gonna play four bet or fold with his whole strategy, I'd make it 7.
Yeah, you can
Or
just
like
click
whatever,
it back. Like if
six
it's
point two or whatever. Yeah, like if he tells me like no matter what sizing you make it, I'm gonna four bet or fold. I'll make it as small as I can.
yeah, just
So yeah, exactly. But like if you do that, he will start calling a lot. But calling sucks. So you got to straddle this kind of like is it I don't want him to start introducing a calling strategy that with hands that would have folded otherwise. But I still want to make it as small as I can because calling's really miserable. And
Mhm.
so that for those reasons, I would have made it around 8.5.
Yeah, that makes more sense. This just seems like a little bit wasting two big blinds, one big blind.
Yeah. I play the hand comparably though. I mean, like it is what it is, and I know that he's going to punt it in on me. I'm just like
Yeah,
I hate doing this. Like it's like it's almost like the more you know, like you're just like I'm about to like all the knowledge in my head is about to cost me 8 big blinds because like I'm pretty sure he's going to ship it on me here, and then he rips it. You're like, yep, I hate this game. You just move on to the next spot.
that's how I felt like. Yeah, he's probably just ripping over, but I'm still gonna have to do it. So
Yeah, exactly. So I have to do it. I would have thought about it.
here.
The king 8 with the king 8.
Oh yeah, yeah. Go back here. Yeah, I do think it's close, but like they all have reach-having stacks, so I still think like my opening range will be like capped to probably 30% over here, unless they like don't two bet jam enough, or well three bet jam enough, or like
Yeah, I don't think it's great or anything. I mean, like, I would think about it. I mean, I would be pulling like the suited connector stuff out first, right? Like the 8-7 suited would
yeah,
come out first, all that shit. So, like, this is close to me, but like, it depends on a bunch of things. I just think it's a hand that I would consider opening. I'd fold it a lot, but like, I would think
mm-hmm.
about opening it.
Yeah. You do wanna open towards like high guard blockers over here in these situations. So I opened. What's your thoughts on flop?
I mean, I would assume it's high frequency, small sizing still that you can still push that his range, because he's got 50 big blinds, his range becomes kind of more like a chippy V model. I would assume that you want to use like more like if ranges were closer to parity, if you'd open the button or the cutoff, I would check a lot more. And I would be, I think like three bet c betting linearly becomes like, or with like your whole range, even becomes like less good, and you start to polarize more. I don't know if you'd have to polarize in like EP versus big blind when big blind range is like a CEV range. I don't know if it's going to be enough to like have to start polarizing the C bet strategy. So I would probably still C bet like at a pretty high clip. I would introduce checks for sure. I would introduce checks with like pocket eights because I think that he's supposed to introduce like higher frequency two bet, and I think he's going to find those answers. He's probably going to overdo it. So I would polarize a little bit, but I wouldn't polarize to the point that I would take this hand out. I would polarize to the point that I would like take out eights and like nines and tens and jacks probably from the c bet strategy. Maybe I'd leave in eights, but I'd take out like nines through jacks. I would take out like a good part of the 7 and 4x block. I would take out fives and threes for sure. I don't even know if I'd have threes, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I would take out some like I would take out ace jack. I would take out ace 10, and I would take out sets, all of them probably.
I don't think you want to bet sets over here. Not
You do or
queens.
you don't?
I think you do.
Yeah, maybe you do. I mean, I don't know. I'm just telling you what I would do. I'd
Mm.
probably subtract sets to protect the checking strategy. Because with 25 big blinds and like the way that he's likely to play versus the check strategy, like that's what makes sense to me. But maybe that's, I don't know. I didn't solve it. I didn't solve it.
I didn't solve this spot either, but like I still believe like you want like I do expect this to bet like pretty high frequency, but I still think like all queen X will have like about 20% check at least. Like you want to have queen X in your range as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, so I mean, like Queen X makes like a lot of sense to see it, right? Like it's vulnerable to turns and rivers. His range is weak. You can stack off, so like you can go bet 2-bet 3-bet with this hand if you want.
yeah.
So like this like that makes sense, right? But like we have to check. I think we have to have like a 20% check if I had to guess against a chip leader or someone who covers you. So I would assume that you have a 20% check. I would assume all of the thin, like kind of like mergy linear value bets like fall apart because like he just check raises to like some click and then bet small in the turn and you're just like investing too much money with too weak of a range. So it makes sense to try to play two streets with those hands. And then like the way that if you say my whole range is like pocket eights, when you check back the flop, he's supposed to like gun at turns with like overbets. So like I offset with sets, and then that kind of like keeps the range intact. I would still bet fours a lot for what it's worth, but I would check because I think he folds 4x. So I would still bet pocket fours a lot, but I would check pure with like pocket queens and pocket sevens.
That makes sense.
So
I'm actually looking something maybe similar sim.
sure, go for it.
What the fuck is this? So this is opening range. This dude.
No, I probably don't have fours, but if I did have fours, that's what I would do.
Yeah. So this is like big blind 54, low check 32, and
Sure.
order sex 12, 18, 42, 22. So this opening range. This is probably like actually like I might be this tight in this spot to be honest. Like, the situation isn't like ideal. And this is his defending range. I do believe this, like, he might even defend more. I don't know how he plays, but based on what we saw blind versus blind and all of that, I expect people who like haven't studied ICM sims, I do expect them to be a little bit out of line with defense as well. So I don't like believe he's like not having offsuit 7x and all of that, like offsuit a6s. He might probably 3-bet some, but
Sure.
so check, and over here, yeah, really high frequency bet with our range. This is queen 9-4, so it's different board.
Sure. But it's still betting the sets.
Yeah, like this is actually surprising that the queens are betting full weight. I would just mostly like.
What's the stack depth? What's the effective stack here? Sorry, can you show me the effective stack again?
11. This 32. So over here it's smaller.
Yeah, so that matters a lot.
Yeah.
That matters a lot, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, like like a lot. So the whole thesis rests on the fact that like you can get stacks in comfortably, like in lots of like two street situations.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, as we get even incrementally deeper, like it's just less and less true, and it becomes more and more expensive to check the strongest parts of the range.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, like I'm not surprised that it's less true here. No, I'm not saying that it's like not a good, like not a decent representation of the situation, but as we go from like 25 to effective to 26, like it's going to get less good to check sets. Like as you get to 28, it's going to get less good to check sets. Like at an extreme, if you have 100 big blinds, checking sets sucks, right?
Yeah.
I would never check sets with 100 big blinds, right? So, like as we get deeper and deeper, and this is deeper than the in-game spot, like it does deteriorate, but like this is kind of this range. I guess the checking component just basically gives up. Can you just click on the check component for me?
On the turn, you mean?
On the right. Just click on the check component on the right, so I can just like see the range.
We can look it up over here.
Yeah,
makes more
sure,
sense.
That's fine. That's what I wanted to. Yeah, thanks. So Yeah, there's just like nothing in this checking strategy, right? Like you've got some top pairs, but that's like the end of it.
Yeah.
I guess you've got pocket aces at a small weight, but the checking range is just like really hard capped, and it's just
Yeah.
a way of dealing with that. Which like in shorter stacks you can deal with that by slotting in some sets, but at deeper stacks you can't.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
don't know. It's close. I don't like it's not like you have that many sets anyways in this situation,
Yeah.
but yeah.
So knowing this guy was out of line, I expect myself to 3-bet here. Yeah. Do you go smaller here, like 8 big blinds sometimes, or like do you want to go even maybe bigger to avoid like him having a calling range? Because like people still tend to call these spots. I
Right.
I guess he actually could be calling a little bit, but like in general his strat should be for like 4-bet or fold.
Yeah. I probably would have folded this one, but
Really?
but yeah, probably. I mean, like I'm a nit, not like you. So, but like I think if I took this spot, I'd probably use a similar sizing. I might go a little bit smaller, like, but not much, like maybe 8.7, 8.6, something like that. But I wouldn't go. That's like trivial. So I think I'd play it pretty comparably to you
Okay.
if I threw that.
What's your thoughts over here?
Yeah, pure fold.
Yeah, pretty obvious. Oh, I know. I actually did saw this one. So, what's your thoughts over here now? Let's see.
I would pure fold still. I could understand a model wanting you to shove suited ace highs. Like that's what I would expect a model to do. From what I've seen from this hand history so far, and it's not like I'm watching every hand, like I'm not on the table, or I'm not like emotionally invested in the outcome. But like this guy doesn't seem like he's done much. So
Yeah, he was actually doing a lot, but like, yeah, you haven't seen him doing much.
yeah, because I'm watching. Yeah, because I'm looking at your hands, right? So
Yeah.
like the hands that you've played, he hasn't done anything. So if he's like relatively active, I could get behind 4-betting at a point. I would not call. So I would be either 4-betting or folding. But that's kind of just me.
So the way I'm thinking of these bots, I'm gonna use Ecolab for that. Is basically, first of all, I think he uses a little bit too small of a size, so I do expect to have somewhat calling range. But the basic logic from all the simulations that seems to be like sticking is about like whenever you open over here and you face a 3-bet, doesn't really matter which position, you tend to defend about 1/3 of your range. Now he covers me by a lot. I assume I can like go a little bit like around maybe 30% or so. So if I'm just thinking about my opening range, which would probably be around like 22% or so in this type of scenario. So I just like put in something like this, like maybe 20%. And now, like, basically from that, we need to get down to, let's say, 6-7%.
Sure.
So just to illustrate the point is like these are the hands that are coming out first. We are still on a 10%. So probably bears are coming out. Like we can take ace queen out. We can start now removing these, and like that's this way it becomes pretty obvious that this one is like just going to be a fold here.
Okay, cool. Good.
So like this is just the way I'm thinking and like about these bots that like I don't really need to run like a solve. I'm just like, okay, I need to defend about like 1/3, maybe because the smaller size I get to like
defend more.
Yeah, by calling sometimes, but like in general, like that's the like thought behind it, how I'm doing it in game.
Yeah, I think that's a good approach. I mean, I was familiar with the 1/3 rule.
Obviously.
But I didn't know that. I mean, like you got people here. I didn't know that. I didn't think of like I actually go through the exercise very often in game to like see like what the conclusions are of it necessarily.
Yeah, I don't really do it for in game, but like I do it a lot in seminars, so and coachings in general. So.
And then like the other thing was it just sounded like you were opening looser than me. I probably would have been opening like 18 or 19%. You seem like you're consistently opening wider than I am, which is and it's like not a problem, but it does seem like you're opening a little bit wider than me. I would have been a bit tighter.
I guess it makes sense to be a little lighter, especially with this guy over here. I'm not really worried too much about B blind, but if there is like a bigger stack light position, they tend to three betting quite a bit.
Yeah, you've got. I mean, you've got. So like from my perspective, you're actually like from my perspective, you've got like the worst stack at the table. So like as far from the way that I
Yeah,
see things,
that is true.
yeah, like the way that I see things, like this is going to be the tightest spot, like more or less. Like you could argue that Ludico's got like a worst spot, but it's either you or Ludico that have like the worst stacks. And like being tight is like more kind of impactful to you, so because you can't wait as long. So I would say like you have like in my opinion you have like the worst spot. You've got the small blind who's got a re-steal stack who's going to be, even if he's like ICM aware, he's probably going to be too loose just because he's not going to value his stack as much as he probably should. So that's the small blind. The button's probably is in like a semi-comparable situation, although the button should be much tighter. And then you've got the two chip leaders, and one of them's in the big blind, and the other one's on the cutoff.
Mm-hmm.
And so like this just seems like a very tight distribution to me. So,
Actually,
so I would probably be opening like 18% here, maybe 17 to 19%, something like that. But I wouldn't be opening like 22 or 23 or something like that. I wouldn't have done that.
Mm. So yeah, the same 18, 42, 54, 22.
Big blind's 18 here. Big blind's 18 here though.
Yeah. That is different though. So big blind.
Yeah, that's like radically different. Like radically different. Can you open it up and see if there's any other ones? Is there anything better? Like anything where big blind's a chip leader? Just open up the models.
I guess I can look at over here from low jack.
Big blind 60. Big blind 63. Big blind 63. Hijack.
Yeah, 18. Makes
I have no
sense.
life, so it is what it is.
I have no life. Yeah. So we face 3-bet. How much would you VP over here?
Never.
I mean, like in terms of your range. Obviously, like Queen 6 off is not in there.
Yeah. So I mean, like we cover him, but it's impactful. He's got to be tight if he's playing well because the player to his left is so short. So I'm probably on like 45 to 50% again, if I had to guess. It's just like the fact that if you didn't cover him, I'd be tighter than that. But I think the fact that you cover him means it's going to be tough to get tighter than like 45 to 45 to 50%.
So I'm actually thinking like I'm like now the guy who's tighter here. I think we're like pretty much capped to about 40 here. Because he's not supposed to be opening too much, and his opening range is just so strong that it just seems like so hard to get over a 40% defend here. Maybe it's even like 35.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, like it's just like whenever I think that, and then I look it up, and because like I cover the guy, I'm always surprised, and like I'm always supposed to be told to be looser because you cover him. So like if you had 15, I would be like with you on like 35.
Oh yeah.
Right, like 30 to 35 or whatever. But like the fact that you have 20, 23, 22, however you want to think about it, like I have a harder time with like being too tight.
Yeah, but, like I do think these situations are like in general like, are you like at 40? Are you supposed to be doing 50 now? Like it's not like that simple to get it.
Yeah, basically like all the offsuit combos deteriorate like really quickly. So like the offsuit combos deteriorate really quickly. And then like the shitty suited stuff deteriorates, and then like everything else is like probably not going to be a big EV change, whether like you don't fold it or not. So like as long as you're calling with like offsuit Broadway and like most of your decent suited hands, like decent being like 6-3 suited plus or something, you're probably fine. But like I would say that like if you're folding like 6-5 suited, I think that's a mistake. I think if you're folding like Jack 10 offsuit, that's a mistake. So
just to like show viewers about like what type of range you're like in general thinking. I think you're thinking something around these lines, right?
Yeah, I'd fold some ace highs. I'd fold like the worst ace highs.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'd fold like ace 2 offsuit or something. But yeah, I'm thinking about a range that looks something like that. That's correct. So I'd probably defend a few more of the suited jacks, but like the essence of the strategy is there. So yeah.
Just to give.
So essentially, the idea is that like when you're playing is like trying to figure out like where like which hands are sensitive is like extraordinarily important because like if you want to play a little bit tighter, what's that even mean? So you're trying to identify like the areas of sensitivity in the range, and usually it's the offsuit combos that are going to be like the most sensitive. First, suited combos are fairly resilient. So yeah.
So this is like in general, if anybody is thinking like 50% defend, like this is what 50% defend would look like with ICM sims. Typically offsuit connectors, offsuit nines here, ace-x, and like suited stuff for the most part.
Yeah.
So over here, seems pretty standard to just get it in, just rip it.
Yeah, that's not a lot of like alternative answers now.
Okay, this was literally a spot. I like even looking at that now, I don't know what the fuck to do here. It kind of feels like anything seems like it's kind of like let's just move on. Doesn't matter what I do. If I jam, 3-bet, call, fold, like it just feels like it doesn't really matter. Like folding, like I guess is like maybe the worst. I don't fucking know.
I think folding's underrated.
Really? You think you can click a fold here? Like I guess so. Like.
Dude, I told you. I said I'm tight. Like people don't believe me because like they watch me play and they're like, this guy's not tight at all. Like I am tight. I'm tight like in unfavorable distributions. Like I'm pretty tight. This distribution sucks, man. Like you got to, you're in the worst seat again. Like you've got a 9 big blind stack there, you've got a 19 big blind stack there, and you've got Wizzo who just like straight up IDGAF. Like he's told you already. Like,
that is true.
Like I'm in this spot. I'm just like, all right, like. This hand's like super legit and everything. I wait all day for ace queen, but this sucks. I guess I fold. I would just pitch it.
Yeah.
I would just pitch it.
So I think I would be folding over here, but like I think what my thought was like the bluffs what I want to use, and like just the way like all of these players will be playing, they will be jamming queens plus ace king, even though like if I 3-bet, I don't believe like this guy should be jamming probably queens here.
Right.
So I kind of felt like this is probably like just because these two stack, I'm not going to call out this guy, but I will have decent equity against this guy with ace queen. So that's why I just use it as a bluff. But yeah,
sure.
I'm like.
No, I mean, I understand. Yeah, I understand it's a bluff. I mean, there's no confusion about whether or not this hand's a bluff or not. But like, from this position, I would probably pass. But it worked. It's good.
Would you choose a smaller 3-bet size here, though?
I would. Yeah, I would still go to like 5.5.
Okay.
Like 5.2, 5.3, 5.4. Like you consistently 3x it, and I think from like early, like just a little cleaner, like not to. This range should be like as you can see, like your bluffs are like pretty linear. So when your bluffs are linear, calling sucks as a counter strategy. So he's supposed to 4-bet, and if he's right, so like So if we build your strategy from the ground up, let's just let's talk about it. So he opens. What's your VPIP? Top VPIP is going to be 6%, and like it's probably not even 6. So like it's 5. I'm telling you to fold ace queen potentially. So like that's how.
To be honest, I'm not sure I'm gonna have a calling range here. Like.
No, yeah, I just mean the overall VPIP. So But the overall VPIP is going to be like 5.5%, right? So no matter whether you call from that 5.5% block or you pure 3-bet from that 5.5% block or you mix it up, it doesn't really matter. You can't play more than 5.5% of the deck from this position, probably. Yeah. So if you're playing if you get to 5.5%, which I don't think you can even really pull that off looking at what you're doing now, like. Like it's hard to get to 5.5. Like king queen suited probably is a good as a hand. Like I think 3-bet bluff like relatively effectively. King queen suited is not the worst hand to include, I think. So if you have a 5.5% overall VPIP and you 3-bet the whole thing or you 3-bet half of it, king queen off's out. Take king queen off out.
I do think I would probably have a call here a little bit, but like this range is already fucked up. So
yeah, it does, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, like my point is, it won't matter. However you 3-bet this or call or whatever this block. Calling as a counter is going to be very weak because your construction's linear, right? So calling sucks in 3-bet pots. Calling sucks as a counter strategy against linear ranges. Against a linear range, he should be 4-betting more. Against a polar range, he should be calling more. But you can't polarize this. So, like with the morphology of the two ranges, right? Like I don't think calling should really matter. Like should be very counter effective for Wizzo. As a result, you can go smaller. Is kind of my point,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
Like you should be able to go
Yeah,
smaller.
like if I want to 3-bet my range here or like close to this, I do think it kind of makes sense to go smaller with my range as well.
Yeah, I would never have king queen offsuit in this range ever, but that's just me. So
Yeah, neither would I. I would sometimes mix here, but mostly fold, I think. Especially like he kind of felt a little out of line, so I wasn't sure. I'm just so committed. Like if I make it like 7-8, like what I like if this guy jams, I guess I'm folding. I don't know. What's your thoughts?
I'll just fold.
Yeah, that's what I did. Makes more like just to keep it simple myself, to myself in those spots. Oh, this will be a hand. What's your thoughts about pre-flop over here, though? Would you squeeze sometimes?
Yeah, I think squeezing not all in can be good. I don't think you should shove though.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I just figured I'm just gonna call, and this happened.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, like in game I didn't know what to do. Like looking at it now, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I don't really know what to do either.
I kind of felt like because he's sized up and all the money in the middle, and because I don't know, I'm just gonna rip it in and be like whatever. But like I still like I don't love it. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think shoving's like is defensible. So it
Mm.
wouldn't surprise me if that was the line. I think it's probably the line, but like, I mean, like I think it kind of has to be the line to be honest. But like, if it calls, I wouldn't be surprised. But like, I do think that shoving's probably the line.
Okay. Yeah, like I still don't know. It
Sure.
feels indifferent either way, or like doesn't really matter too much, I guess.
Yeah, I think I would just probably rip it.
Okay. How do you counter this? Because not this is the moment you will start seeing Viso starts to introduce an limping range, and it kind of drew me a little bit off because like, well, you didn't really see it too much, and like in solver, like he's not supposed to have any limps here probably. So again,
Sure.
some suboptimal strategy, and like if you don't like, I don't know about you, but like I'm pretty sure you don't study playing against this type of stuff as well, and it like kind of draws you off a little bit. Even to like whenever I see a higher stakes player do it, I expect it to be somewhat balanced. I don't think it's like only aces or something. But still, like,
Sure.
what's your like take on this?
I think one of the ways to take advantage of it is building an overlimping range that draws to the nuts. So I would overlimp lots of suited aces, um, and pairs. I think you should probably not get involved in the pot with hands that don't do that, as far as calling goes. So I think calling with hands like offsuit Broadway sucks. Um, I think calling with like really medium hands basically sucks also. So that would be like Jack 7 suit or something. So that's out. So the overlimping strategy for me is like very suited ace high dense, um, very pair dense. I think you can include suited connectors, but probably not at the weight that people want to include them at.
Mm-hmm.
Because the big blind has 8 big blinds, so you're going to make a pair of fives and then have to run it. So that sucks. So suited ace highs and pairs, I think, fill out the overcall range more likely than not. And then, so you're kind of using him as a shield. So
Mm-hmm.
like for someone for the small blind or big blind to ISO, they have to deal with Wizzo. So I use Wizzo as a shield, like I said, and so I would that would be the first part. The second part is since I'm not overlimping offsuit Broadway, I would probably attack with some of it. So like King Queen offsuit would be a hand that I might attack with, like ISO with. Um, Even suited Broadway below ace high. So like King Jack suited, King 10 suited, Queen 10 suited, Queen Jack suited, I might ISO with.
Mm.
But
So,
I would have a fairly like, and then I would raise. I would overlimp capped, but and I wouldn't ISO with like. I wouldn't ISO with probably like tens. I might even overlimp tens. Hands that like look like they're really attractive ISOs in Chippy V, I don't think would work as well. Like you ISO 10s and then he shoves for
Yeah.
40. Now what?
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to overlimp like a little bit higher up. So I will actually have ways to defend against ISO when Wizzo folds. So like need beat ISO shoves or something for 25, and I have 10s and I call. So like I'm not just pure folding after overlimping, but I'll obviously be folding a lot. And again, like I would be isolating with hands that played flops well, assuming Wizzo is calling more than he probably should. And then I would be isolating with like the top. So like aces, kings, queens, ace, king suited, ace, king offsuit.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, I agree. You kind of want to go somewhat polarized with your ISO range here in general. But because he's probably having a calling range, you kind of don't want to be like super polarized and still have like somewhat stronger hands still in this ISO range as well.
BBZ here, and I'm just announcing our brand new ICM course on BBZPoker.com. The new ICM course we think is going to be a game changer for our audience. For the most part, in final tables, as we approach final tables, once we get into the money, we use inside BBZ radically different strategies than what we use in other scenarios, and we don't actually see that from a lot of our opponents. And we think that this is just something that will add a lot of value, open up a lot of eyes in terms of what we're doing differently, and ultimately improve win rates. So you can again find that on bbzpoker.com. Look forward to seeing you guys there. Thanks very much.
So I mean, like concerns would be like, yeah, he's going to call a lot, and yeah, mostly that. You're gonna have to barrel. It'd be nice to be able to barrel. So.
This kind of sucked, but I don't think I can fold.
No, I'm just like all day.
Yeah, it's just I'm worried people have aces there.
Yeah, but I'm not. I'm more worried that he's gonna have 9, and then he just like calls it off, and I have to run it. And I'm pissed.
That's true.
I think people are terrible, man. I think people are just like terrible.
In general, yeah, they are. So, again, would you now like expand a lot your eyes? Like, I was literally like these spots I got so lost in terms of like I'm not 100% sure what I'm like need to overlimp in these spots. I should probably run some sims with like limps allowed.
But like, yeah. So I would assume. So like I would start with the assumption that like it's probably a lot tighter than you think.
Yeah. That's what I'm actually thinking as well. That I might probably overdo it.
Yeah. So yes, like I would assume that it's going to be like tighter than you think. What we see in a lot of situations is that like you almost treat this like an open. Now, obviously, it's different from a small blinds perspective because it's so cheap to continue. But I think being suited will really matter in situations like this one because you could think about it like the way that the big blind would defend his range against min raises or something. Now that's not a perfect analogy, but if you start with that, you can get a visualization for like what hands tend to be resilient and what hands tend to fall apart. So like offsuit Broadway would probably be pretty resilient. Most of your suited hands that don't have a deuce in them would probably be pretty resilient. The hand this hand class would probably be fairly sensitive, and as a result would like fall apart relatively quickly. Like yeah, A3 suited is going to be out. But and so like the question for me is like obviously the sensitivity is going to be in the offsuit region. That's remaining. Yeah, something like that. And like how do I decide whether to play it or not play it? Well, if he's going to be really aggressive post flop, like you mentioned earlier in the session, then probably those offsuit hands, like the sensitivity in those offsuit hands, is going to increase, and they're going to be pushed to fold more quickly. Yeah. And if he plays really passively after limping, and he plays really passively post flop, which is unlikely, then you could probably expand it at the margin. So Wizzo's going to play aggressively post, obviously. The offsuit, the sensitivity is probably, based on what we've seen from big blinds, we know where the sensitivity is in the range. And so I would pure fold this hand.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
But like, when you don't understand something, you have to try to relate it to things that you can.
Yeah, that makes perfect.
From. Like, you have to try to identify something that you understand well and then extrapolate from there to try to like learn lessons about what you're doing. And I have no fucking clue what we're supposed to do with 40 big blinds versus a button limp. ICM adjusted with a 10 big blind stack in the big and 10 on the in the big the next hand.
Yeah, I think you put it really well. Like
that's what I would think about it.
Like just take your big blind range, maybe expand it slightly, and like go with that, because like that's the way you can actually think about it and not fuck it up. You calling here?
So the folding percentage is always surprising in these situations, like how high up you get to fold. But I would probably still call.
Yeah, like
Every time I check these out, I'm always like, damn, I could fold a little bit higher up than I thought. But if I was playing this spot in game, I'd be like, I have ace-5 suited, and he's got 8 bigs, man. I'm calling it off. So
yeah, I wasn't sure either. It kind of felt like whatever, but we can
Sure.
check it. So this is small blind pushing range. Seems pretty okay.
Sure.
Ace-5 suited, minus.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's always so tight, man. It's always so tight.
Yeah. Also, I do believe you can make argument people might like be even tighter, but like, yeah, there is like no like that's like bad. Like, I guess it's like good thing and it's at the same time bad thing because like you don't really have information how people are playing like specific information about people how they playing final tables because like even if they like I saw this guy in a final table week earlier but now I'm gonna see him like in a few months doesn't mean he plays the same, right? So you don't
Yeah,
really have
exactly.
any information like what people do and like what the ranges are going to look. So we suck out.
Yeah, we're both the worst. We're both supposed to fold. We're both supposed to be good at ICM. We both call.
So over here, I think this is bottom goal, like bottom of our range. We
Yeah,
probably want to call us like 40 here, 35, 40, or will we pip?
yeah, something like that.
So we just check. I kind of like thought if he raises, he would bluff like at some point. I don't know why. I figured like he's gonna put more heat on me and like he's more like people tend to be more on like high guard hands that I didn't really think I'm gonna have that much fold equity here. Plus, I didn't really think that I need to bluff always here. Just the way like what once we check flop and turn through, I don't think I need to bluff always here, and that, like I can check as well sometimes because if he has like 10 and below, we're gonna split it still.
Sure, no shit. So yeah, so I mean, you have way too much air in this situation and are way too short value to. So like if you just map your range out, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, you're gonna have to check a large fraction of your air here because a pair of jacks isn't a value bet, right? Like it's not a hand, right? So you've got ace high that could theoretically value bet because it beats the board, right?
Yeah.
So ace high is where your range starts, like where you can think about potentially, trying to extract some value. I don't know if it's a good idea or not, but like that's where you could at least start to think about it.
Yeah.
And then you would have to have a boat, and then like offsetting those boats is like every bluff in the deck, right, including Jack X. So you've got way too much air. So like you're gonna have to check back most of it. Would I check back this part of it? I mean, this is where I would think about bluffing. So I would assume that like maybe he stabs more of his backdoor flush draws either on the flop or the turn with air, because like the reason to bet the flop with his backdoor flush draws is that like they have equity and everybody understands that. Like, but on the turn it can be good because actually you would be maybe slightly more inclined to bet your backdoor flush draws on the flop.
Yeah.
So when he has 6-5 of diamonds or like 10-9 of diamonds or something or 10-8 of diamonds, he unblocks the ways that you would fold the turn better than when he has clubs. So by the time you get to the river, when I'm evaluating bluffing, I'm going to be evaluating bluffing with two cards that are either hearts, diamonds, diamonds and spades, hearts and spades. Like I'm not going to be bluffing with anything with a club in it. So if I have two clubs, when I get to the river here, if I have two clubs in my hand, I don't bluff ever. If I get to the river here and I have one club, I don't bluff ever here. So I can only bluff with those suits. And so like you've got the way that I would bluff. Now again, you still have to give up a lot. You can't. You even though you know that, you still can't bluff with every single diamond, diamond, heart, heart, spade, spade in this situation. So, but that's how you bluff. So, yeah. So I mean, like, would I bluff with this hand sometimes? Yeah, for sure. Would I bluff with this hand all the time? No. So yeah.
So I'm just thinking about my range. I just think like in this spot, what I did is like I misunderstood my range on the river because like he did 4 exit pre-flop. So I
Sure.
I probably just misunderstood like my own range on the river that this is actually my bottom and I do wanna bluff it because like still used to some of ship EV where you're like having all of this stuff that you bluff with. But
Hmm.
yeah, that makes sense.
You still have a lot though. I mean, like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
still
yeah,
have
that is true.
you're still like not like you're not like out of bluffs because you also check back the flop and turn, right? So like that's
Hmm.
gonna discount. That's gonna like completely subtract the queen X block, and you're gonna have like a king X block mix and then ace high. Like those are the value bets that offset the bluff. So even though what you're saying is true, your range is more narrow. Like you're still probably overweight bluffs.
Yeah.
So yeah, so like you still have to give up with some of them, and this is a reasonable one to pull into the betting range for sure. But I think it's not unreasonable to give up with it.
Would you steal here?
No.
Good. Me neither. What about this?
Nope.
Had a boy.
I'm tight, bro.
Yeah,
And
I
the one
get
time
that.
I tried to get loose, I got loose with ace five suited, and it's over. It's like, oh, and I'm like,
So about this one, we did run this one as well. But what's your thoughts over here?
yeah. I mean, like I would probably call. I could get behind you're only four-handed, so I could get behind three betting and running it, but I would still with a 12 big blind stack, I would still just call.
Hmm. So my thinking was the same. I'm probably mixing in. This guy's. I don't remember exactly if he was still out of line, but I think if he is like a little bit too out of line, I don't mind expanding a little bit with value and go full weight here. But at the time, I was like, I'm uncertain, so I'm probably just gonna mix, and this time I'm just gonna go for a check, call. So,
Sure.
do you want to do hand first or straight to the sim?
No, let's do the hand first.
Okay,
See if I screw it up.
okay. So, what's your answer over here?
I mean, I would probably still raise. I mean, like I would just, like I would, like the sim might want to call and like deal with it, and like that's cute and everything, but like I'm just gonna raise.
Okay.
And even when I see it in the sim, I'm still gonna be like, yeah, that sim's right, like no doubt. But like, oh man, I'm just gonna raise, man. I'm just gonna raise.
Yeah.
So
My thoughts in game was that I'm sure it mixes into calls as well, and that guy deep barrel quite aggressively. I was literally thinking on a blank turns, I'm just gonna check jam. Like that was my thinking because like he seemed to be really aggressive with second barrels.
yeah,
But yeah, I like no problem getting it in on the flop.
yeah. Like, I mean, I'd feel better about check raising if I had queen of hearts, queen of clubs, or like queen of hearts, queen of spades. I think
Hmm.
that's better. So I mean, like, I think you're probably supposed to call, but I would just like still not call. So
Hmm. And basically, this is exactly what I did. I
yeah,
figured
sure.
he's out of line, so would you call ever here?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay. So this is his opening range, 52%, debatable. I expected him to open this much. This
Sure.
is my calling range. I did give a really small weights over this because, like, in game you're like you can't be 100% sure if you do this. I did put the half weight queens in. Ace king I probably go full weight. I might even jam ace queen off,
Hmm.
and I'm probably bluffing this region over here anyway. So I didn't allow leading as do it. So he has quite aggressive strategy. This aggressive strategy might come also because my defending range over here is out of line. So if you know, like you already know this, but like for the viewers, if you defend too much, in position betting strategy often gets to size up and go way more aggressive, and you're starting to overfold to flop bets uh, in ICM.
Yeah.
So if it's two thirds,
Yeah, just
uh,
goes for.
and over here, be the backdoor flush draw, we're supposed to mostly raise.
Okay, cool. It's interesting. I would have done it the other way.
Yeah, I actually thought, I think in game I was probably thinking the same. Like, it makes more sense to call with backdoor flush draw.
Sure, yeah. But it's fair. There's a lot, but it's mixing. Like, there's like both,
Yeah, yeah,
both
yeah.
hands are present in both ranges. Like, it's fine because it's indifferent. And we both knew the solver wanted to do that, but I was just like, you have the stones to call. And I'm just like, I'm not losing this hand.
So over here, I actually think this is like, because of the way the sim is, I actually believe this is his bet size. Like, whenever I see this, even though like 10 is what he used, I kind of feel like it's more the range of 13 over here for the most part, probably.
Yeah, probably.
But like against 13, we pure jamming already. So against 10, still some cute clicking as well. But yeah, just
Yeah.
jam.
Yeah, just 2 bets though. So.
Would you start following some 9x here?
In game, nope, probably not.
Yeah, that comes in against whenever somebody bets
Yeah.
suitor, it's like you're like, unless your range is really capped and you really need to find defense, it's not going to be true. But in general, like from the big blind, you typically need to start folding. Like,
Yeah, but like the part of the problem is his range is like 50% for me, right? Like if I'm in game, I'm like, oh god, this sucks. But he's opening so wide, so like that would be a part of why I would have a hard time folding.
let's put another deuce in there. Jam. Yeah, now you're just mixing all the 9x basically. Besides ace 9.
Yeah, I think that makes more sense though.
Yeah.
Like like once you call twice, like ICM adjusted, your flush draws have all been pulled out, so your range at the river is going to be, mostly pairs of 9s and 7s, right? And then you're just like, basically this is just clearing an MDF because his bet size is just under pot.
Mm-hmm.
So like you're just clearing an MDF adjusted for like a modest risk premium. So.
Yep. Okay. Let's move on. So over here, whenever we are like equalish stack or like he covers me slightly, I'm just gonna pretty much limp my range unless I don't, unless he's not going to isolate me like 35-40%, because if he's missing like a weaker isolations, your top range wants to start raise first inning, even if solver would say limp your range or something.
Yeah.
So how much would you like VP here, like in general, like?
A lot. Unless I like without knowing as much about him as I know about, for example, Wizzo. You'd probably see me limp like 85 or so.
This is like
maybe more, maybe like 90, 95, something like that.
50.
I would fold like the bottom 8% or so.
So this is 50 equal. You do have actually some 4xing over here. But like, yeah, VP 85.
Sure. I'd probably over VP because I'd expect him to under ISO.
Okay. Let's move on. Yeah, okay. Still there. Don't think it matters too much. I should be ISOing here sometimes though.
Sure.
Would you bet here or mostly check on the turn?
Mostly check.
Yeah. But would you bet like, okay, what do you think is your like bottom betting value range here?
For me, it would probably be Jack 10.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
10x, yeah, Jack 10x of clubs.
Mm.
I might have something worse than Jack 10 if I have 10 9 of clubs or something. I might bet that.
On the river,
that can handle a check raise.
Yeah, that makes sense. You don't really wanna like value bet and fold 10x on the turn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
On the river, this is like one thing I like. I often feel like people are not value betting wide enough from small blind from his shoes here, that like I might like just run into like, wouldn't even shock me if he just calls me like with king deuce or something stupid like that, ace queen. But like, do you like the value betting in this type of spot?
No, I would have checked this back pure.
Okay. I do believe in ICM is probably just a check back, and it's just too greedy.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I think part of the concern here from my perspective is I think that you'll see some players, and Wizzo I think would fit the category. Some players who use like pretty high frequency check raise on the turn after bet flops. I think that the turn fills out a large fraction of your range. I think you could be check raising hands like King Queen or sets, and even straights. I think straights make lots of sense to check raise the turn with. So I think you can have like a fairly substantial check raise turns category, and as a result, I actually think that his river range, before he checks, can actually have like a lot of strength in it. And I think that you have to think about how far down you want to value bet under those conditions. And I don't think it's a very good idea for him actually to like slot most of those hands into check raise. I think that they should mostly go into bet. Probably like 80% of those hands should go into bet. But a lot of people overdo it and they check too much with like too strong of a range. The reason for that is because like once you check back the turn, your range is mostly capped. So because you check back the turn and your range is mostly capped, his check raise frequency should technically not be that high. He should just drop most of those types of hands into bet on the river. But because you check back the turn, you should not be reopening the action very thinly either. And so like you should probably be using something like a 70% check in general and being very careful about how you reopen. And so like this doesn't strike me as that. So I would classify this as a mistake. I think when you check back the turn, you need to be really careful about reopening too thinly because you mostly hard cap your range to like two pair of seven. So like the notion that you check back like Jack 9 is like not that plausible. So like I don't think you check back Jack 9. I don't think you check back, pocket eights. I don't think you check back kings up. So you're gonna have like sevens up and potentially pocket sevens. You can still call the flop with that. Yeah. So you're gonna have like and that's kind of it, right? So like if Wizzo gets to the river here and he has a 7, he should probably be like pure check raising. So
really?
I mean, I would check raise close to pure. I would just basically like against most mortal human, like against like even I don't want to be too just like against most people. The way that their range is going to be constructed as you is like the strongest component of your range is going to be anything that has to do with a 7. I think like the 7 blocker as Wizzo is worth like a shitload of money as a check raise.
Okay.
And
okay, yeah,
go ahead.
Like I kind of think like 7x calling EV is just so high that you don't really want to go for a check back.
No. Yeah. So if you solve this, you're just gonna be surprised. There's not that many things that I know, but like 7x is going to be the check raise. So,
okay.
Yeah. So like So anyway, so if I'm Wizzo, I would check raise you with like a 7 like all the time. I would have like a lot of it, and I would also check raise you with like. I would check raise you with like King 5 of hearts. Also, I don't have some hands like that, which would be like
that seems pretty fine.
Yeah, and so like, I don't know, but I really don't think that you want to reopen with 10-5 though. I think that's like
yeah. This is way too out of line. I kind of tend to do it against too often in some spots where I'm just way too out of line with my trying to value bet. What's your thoughts of this?
Sure, whatever. Sometimes,
yeah.
I mean, you seem married to the 3x sizing. I'm probably still going a little bit small. Although I think this is better for 3x than the other situations you're in.
Oh yeah, this is deeper. So.
But like I think this is fine. Gotta go after him sometimes with these ace highs for sure.
Yep. So we 3-handed. I kind of think I should be like raising this probably. Sometimes. I don't know. This seems so close. Either way.
Yeah, it's close. It's always this spot's always miserable. So.
Yeah, I think it matters whatever I do here.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Thoughts over here?
Yeah, I probably still bet, but like I'm fine with you if you check. Like if you want to build a more polarized strategy, I think it's fine. I doubt he's gonna be thoughtful enough to like build in like aggressive 2-bet. So I think you could probably just value bet and like not worry about getting check raised. But he's got a lot of pocket 7s, so
yeah. What do you think about sizing?
I think this is fine.
Okay, good. Yeah, my thinking was like it's people probably fold too much to barrels with the size over here, or like in general, like it's not that simple for him to defend in general. And he went for this, obviously.
Yeah, sure.
So
I think
I'm not gonna defend it. Not with ICM.
yeah, I mean, I'd probably have called, but I wouldn't like it. So
Yeah, I don't think it. Yeah, it's going to be close. Like, again, I think it comes back to.
I folded out a diamond, so obviously.
Yeah. Like it just comes back to if I'm betting enough ace size to this size, I think. Because if I'm not betting enough ace size, my range is like I'm just going to massively overfold if I'm folding this, right? So like this is how I'm typically thinking about it in general. But I do believe I'm probably gonna have it.
Yeah, I think you have to call though. Still, I seen like his value betting range comes from like sevens, right? It's not that easy for his range to barrel either.
Yeah, this is true though.
Like your equity realization is gonna be like really high, so because like his value bets just like don't triple off well. Like for example, if the turn's a 10, like pretty much his whole range shrinks. He doesn't have a deuce. Like he can try to tell you a story that he's got a deuce if he really wants to, but like most people will recognize that they shouldn't do that. So he probably, he covers you, not the other way around, right? So he doesn't have queens through aces. We don't have to worry about that either. Mm-hmm. Maybe he can have jacks, but like probably not. Most people can't, I think, in this distribution have jacks. So like he probably doesn't have jacks through aces. So like if the turn's a 10 or a jack, like does he really want to just triple it off with sevens? Probably not. So like I would just bet call the flop.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think the equity realization is going to be like much higher than you might think looking at it. It's going to go check on tons.
Yeah, that is what I agree. Thoughts over here?
Sucks.
It does.
Yeah, I might call.
I think calling and check raising both should be fine. I kind of lean more check raising with probably spade in my hand.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'd call it this though, probably. Yeah, that's fun.
Like, oh, I remember this hand. My thinking was this guy was so out of line in general.
I was like, oh shit, you called.
Yeah, like that was that guy was just like he literally just went for with totally random hands against some other players as well at the before, and like my thinking was like I'm auto calling here.
Okay.
Obviously, I was wrong.
Sure, I mean it happens sometimes. I would have pure folded river without knowing I didn't see any of it.
Yeah.
Right. So. Yeah. My default is just.
Yeah, default should be fold there. I agree. So it was limp pot.
Sure.
Just a call, I guess. Or do you bet here sometimes?
No, I would call here. I think 2-betting here is like not the end of the world, but I would call.
Mm-hmm. I guess we're just gonna continue as a call.
Yeah, I would have high frequency turn lead probably, but like whatever.
Just check that. Nope. I think it is going to come to an end pretty much. So, do you like this betting, or you rather check it?
I'd rather check. I think you have to bet sometimes though, so I don't think it's like tragic, but I would have mostly checked.
Any ideas on turn?
Yeah, I'd probably bet 1.5.
Okay.
I think you're supposed to bet 1.5 with like 2 pair, flushes when you have them. It's possible that like you can't do that just because like your range is like mostly subtracted from the ace of spades. But I think his range is mostly subtracted from the ace of spades also. So
yeah, that is true.
So like you can probably still get away with betting 1.5, and like thinly value betting like a jack of spades hand, and then when he shoves, just call, even though it's like wow, I'm probably gonna lose. I would still just probably call with the
Wow,
jack of spades.
really?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you should check raise anyways. I think if he does check raise, his size
Yeah.
should be like to like something like 3.5. So like I shouldn't have to deal with that. But like I'm pretty sure like the jack of spades is like the top of your range. So like I think you have like
yeah, pretty much.
yeah.
Knowing myself, I was probably thinking of ripping here.
Yeah, so I don't think you can rip. I think that the sizing choice when you do raise should be to like 5.5.
Oh, yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah, like I don't really have the nuts, to be honest. Like, or like
yeah, it's not even about that. It's like it's also about like if you think ranges for both players start somewhere around like the jack of spades, like at like reasonable weights, and like occasionally both ranges have the queen of spades in them, and neither range has the ace of spades in it at all, then like there's no asymmetry, and so like 2-bet sizing probably be small. So I don't know, I'd go with like 5.5.
Yeah, that makes sense. As I told you. Do you want to jam here? This looks.
Yeah,
like,
probably.
This looks so close. I just.
Yeah, I probably just punt it in though.
So I have aces, no value. Do you play do you play these spots close to GPV in general? Three-handed, like.
In this distribution as you, yeah.
Yeah,
As you,
yeah.
yes. As Wizzo, no.
Yeah, like that's what I mean. As me.
Yeah, sure. A little bit tighter. A little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess
There's still a chance that Wizzo busts and then you get paid tons, right? So
yeah,
like,
exactly.
I would play a little tighter than Chippy V, but not much tighter than that.
To size up here, I think I'm splitting my range here, betting small and betting this. This is like what I think I'm probably doing here.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like, I'd probably just like do this sizing only. I wouldn't split the range up, but that's just me. I think that like 4x can check, 6x and 9x should both bet like this, and then you're fine. You're done. I would just bet like this or check.
Okay. Do you want to limp here now, or like how wide would you VPip here now? Like 60, 70?
Yeah, I'd still fold this. I do think it's looser
this...
than the previous spot, but yeah, I would but something like 65, 70%, that doesn't seem totally unreasonable.
Yeah, I wasn't making my mind up with how hard down do I want to defend here, so seems kind of whatever either way. Probably should defend though.
I'd fold. There's a higher probability than this is supposed to happen that Wizzo goes broke. He doesn't care enough about ICM.
Yeah, and like this guy was also like this guy was like going at people, so he might just think like, okay, I'm gonna go this time.
Sure.
Overlimping this?
Yeah, probably. Kind of hate it, but probably.
Exactly. Oh, I just wanna click it so bad, these spots. The basic idea is, if I'm gonna click it, I just feel like people are playing so straightforward. Like, if I'm clicking it, he needs to defend about like what, 85% of his range, and people are miserably failing that doing that. So if he has 6-7 or like 8-7, like 10-7 or like diamonds or any club in his hand, he can't fucking do it. Like he needs to defend, and I kind of feel like people are not doing that. So
yeah, the equilibrium strategy probably involves something like a bunch of his king high hands too.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, so like I don't disagree with that, but I would still never do anything with this hand. So
yeah, exactly.
I think this is there, but like I would still just fold.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm telling you, this was annoying to play.
Yeah, he's blocking you from a bunch of spots. Sure.
You overlimping here?
No, I'd fold.
I'm gonna run this. What's your thoughts over here? What's your calling range?
I would fold this. I'd call with Jack 9 for sure. So I don't know if that's that's like I don't know what I'd do with Jack. I don't know what I would do with Jack 8, but I would call with Jack 9 and I'd fold this.
So against 58%, I guess you can like take some of this out and like I didn't really think he's like that tight with jams, so I would make his range more like this. So there you go. Your check 9 is in there.
Well, it's definitely in there. It was in there. It was in there once you with a small modification.
Yeah.
It's close though. I mean, like
Yeah,
I don't know. It's close. Like Jack 8's out, Jack 7's out. There.
So this is how we played it.
I'd complete that.
This one?
Pocket 8s.
And I'm going the wrong way. Yeah. So how far down you go? It's your bottom or sevens as well?
Sevens.
Okay.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Yep, sure.
What do you do here with like how do you construct your betting range here? This is like really awkward stack size and like three-way, so
Yeah. You probably need better fives. So I think it's fine. Like you definitely have to bet 9x, I think. When
would you bet all
checks
of
back.
them?
9x?
Yeah.
Yep. Probably. I mean, I think that the in position range is supposed to be capped. And then like the next ranges you're up against is the big blind. Like you can't. Yeah, I would bet all of my 9x block probably, like maybe 80% of my 9x block. I would check. I would mix with flushes. I would bet most of my mostly like I don't think you can have two pair really anyway, so it's like kind of a moot point. But like whatever suited two pair you could have, I'd probably bet that. So I'd probably bet two pair, mix flushes, bet 9x. You gotta be careful though, because like you can't have too high of a check fold in the big blind. So
yeah.
You might have to check a lot more than I think, but
it is like super weird spot to play it. So
yeah, the thing is like the spades should uncap Wizzo at least a little bit, so the big blind can't just go nuts. So like your defend doesn't have to be quite as high because Wizzo can help clear defending minimums on the turn. So I would have a really high frequency bet with 9x and two pair, like I said, and then like I said, I would mix with the flushes. And like mix with flushes. Don't really have anything else as far as pairs go.
Yeah.
So I just like check slam the flushes.
That makes sense.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I can't really have like these high flush draws to check call the turn because I'd shove for pre.
Yeah.
So I guess I just check raise the flushes, which is kind of gross, and then like just check slam with like some combo draw fives, so like 8-5 or like 8-6. With like the 8 of spades, or like 8-5 with the 8 of spades, or something, something like that. Kind of a weird spot though, but
yeah, that's how I felt when I was playing.
But yeah, I think that with the fact that Wizzo's in position strategy sort of involve like 0%. Like Wizzo's in position strategy should be very capped and should involve like 70% plus checking. So
you value betting here or going for check raise? There must check.
Yeah. I'd probably check. Mostly because I think the big blind should, like, I like the idea of giving the big blind a chance to overbluff the turn, or rather overbluff the river. So I think it's easy for the big blind to just like be like, oh, like fives are asymmetric and they belong to me. So like I'm gonna bet everything. It's like, okay, that's a great thesis, but like, gonna do something about it. So yeah, so like I would probably have checked. And I think check raise sizing needs to be small, so I'd probably check raise like 2.8.
Yeah, this is too big. This is too big.
He's got too many fives. So his check raise like 2.8, 3. Like 3.2 seems fine. Like it's just isn't that bad. It's not that bad, but I do check raise probably to slightly smaller size.
That's fine.
You make all your money when he calls without a flush and without a 5.
Yeah, exactly.
So you need him to call like pretty far down. So like the check raise size needs to be pretty small.
This should be also like goes into limping range, right? I played this like I remember after thinking about this final table, I figured I played a little bit too straightforward against big blind here. That was like my
he's isolating fairly aggressively too so far. I believe like we've seen him isolate Jack 5 off, so I recall that one. But it's like he is deploying some kind of ISO strat, so I probably link this one too. Yeah.
You defending here? Seems too high up to fold. We are actually getting pretty close to Visa. I guess folding makes sense.
Yeah, I think I could fold.
Finally. And we lose to king queen. There we go.
Jeez, brother.
Oh, GG.
I think he played well.
Yeah.
Some spots I'd do something a little bit differently, but for the most part, we played similarly.
Well, that's the idea. Would be really fucking weird if we didn't have like similar supras or like played totally differently. Somebody would have to be wrong.
It's definitely not gonna be me. Just kidding. No, when it comes to ICM stuff, it's gonna be me. If in between the two of us, if someone's screwing up on a final table, it's probably me. It's probably not you. You're good at this shit. So thanks, brother. I appreciate the invite. Yargo was a big part of the ICM course, guys. So if you think you can see how divergent like final table strategy is from normal strategy. So if you're like a semi-pro or you feel quite good at no limit and you're trying to get better at this stuff, this is where the edge is on high stakes pros. You saw that I thought Wizzo was making a lot of mistakes. We could prove the mistakes that I was calling out as well. So it is like there's a very big opportunity for, I think, amateur players, semi-professional players, professional players to like build an edge at this part of the game, even in 2021. So again, ICM course at BBZ Poker. And thanks, Yargo. I'll see you guys later.
Yeah, thanks, bro.